Everybody, welcome back to Red Heart Town. So I am in the town's little park here that they've got set up. Let's have a look to begin with. And here in a minute we're gonna get in the car, and well, we'll go on a little adventure, talk about some new updates, see how opened up a city is that's up the way. So of course, we're going to have to stop for coffee first. Coffee, water, you know the drill. I also wanted to address something. Somebody was asking about my car. I'll show you guys here. It's right behind me. It's a Chinese car that I picked up a couple of years ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, for your driving pleasure, we proudly introduce the Beijing 510, representing the pinnacle of Chinese engineering through a joint venture with General Motors in Shanghai. High speed, high styling, maybe not so much in the high speed part, but wait up. Oh, come on. Oh.
Yeah, it does pretty good for me. First I was concerned with it being a Chinese car, and then I found out it's actually a General Motors vehicle. I can show you the Chinese on the back here. I think it says, yeah, this down here is basically saying it's a Shanghai General Motors type car. It's a joint venture with a Chinese manufacturer. And yeah, for convenience purposes, I got a car to be able to get around, and then I found out that driving a car in Chinese cities is anything but convenient. It's faster to take public transportation than to drive because the traffic is so bad. And you'd have to see some of the roads. I mean, they obviously, the cities are very old, and the more you are toward the older part of the city, the narrower the roads become, and, yeah, it's just not convenient. We'll just put it that way. And having a car in Beijing was beyond inconvenient, so the car didn't get driven a whole lot. Out here, I'm driving it quite a bit, but that's because in the countryside, it's a bit more convenient. Although I can still get anywhere I really wanted to go with public transportation, if I had to. And again, I'm going to have to do a video about that here coming up. But yeah, my car, it's called a Beijing 510. And let me show you a little bit of the interior here. So here you go. It's got leather interior. I picked the color. My wife picked the outer color, the silver with black. It's got a 6-speed manual transmission. This is normally a touchscreen. Well, I'll turn it on. Yeah, it's got a start button. I don't have to put a key into anything. I still have to have the key in my pocket, but yeah, here we go. Here comes the radio thing. Now, I have difficulty with this because obviously it's in Chinese. It has navigation. I've never used the navigation because I don't know how to tell it where to go. My wife can do it. Oh, here comes I'll connect to my phone. Bluetooth, obviously. Climate controls. It's got all these little rocker switches. Oh, here comes the radio. So yeah, it does pretty good for me. It gets decent gas mileage. It's not like the fastest car in the world, but most Chinese cars, because of taxes and that sort of thing, the engines are very small. It's kind of funny, we were looking at getting an Audi a little while back, and the engines are so small. I see Cadillacs, and I'm used to, in the United States, something might have like, oh, it's got a V8 and that's awesome, but here, if it's got a V6 or something, that's huge. It's, so power, displacement, they're not a really big thing here. I've seen some really crazy cars that someone, and that's another thing. So if you got an American car, like back in the United States, I had a newer Ford Explorer, and we just sold that recently. But, it's okay. It had a V6. I can't remember the size of the engine, but not that much. But out here, if you were to have bought that Ford Explorer, I think the lowest you're going to pay for the very base model, it's going to be somewhere around $80,000 equivalent. So anything that has to be imported is going to be super expensive. So whenever I see like a Maserati driving around, or if I'm like seeing, the craziest one that I've seen was a Corvette. I saw a Corvette driving around one day. That's something you never see in China. But I saw one driving around in, where was I? I was in Chaohu. It's another city in Anhui province. I first heard this rumbling noise, I'm like, well, that sounds like a V8. But I don't see anything with it, I haven't heard a V8 in a long time. And I'm looking, and then there it goes. A Corvette. And, they probably paid a lot of money to bring that car in from the United States. They have Mustangs here, and they have Camaros, but I think the Mustangs have 4-cylinder engines, and, you can get the V8, you can get it. But again, you're going to pay a lot of money to import it from the United States. And the Camaros, I don't know a whole lot about the Chinese Camaros, but I do see them around. They're very popular because of Transformers, the movie. Chinese people love that for some reason. So Bumblebee was a Camaro, obviously. And that's, so those are very popular. But as for me, well, as soon as I heard that, you can no longer register your car after 10 years, I didn't feel like, having a car like that would be a good idea because, well, I don't know. I see Lamborghinis, I see Ferraris sometimes, and I think, man, after 10 years, do they really have to, I mean, is that it? The car's scrap? You spend that kind of money on a car like that, and then, you can no longer use it. I don't know. Maybe for some cars it's different. I've seen, well, no, yeah, you don't see old cars in China. You just never see them. The biggest reason, of course, is that rule. You can't, register your car after a certain amount of time. And the other part of that is that, well, I don't know how well Chinese people, if you have a car and like after 10 years or something, you're going to have to get a new car anyway, you might be less inclined to take care of the car. So I don't know how often they're going to be changing the oil or any of that sort of thing. Most of the cars that I've seen that are old are reaching that point. They're in such bad shape. I wouldn't buy a used car in China. I'll put it that way. It reminds me of an experience I had with a taxi. Let's get on the road here for a second. So one time I was in Hefei with a friend, which is the capital, of course, of Anhui province. Well, of course. If you've not been to China, you probably don't know what a Hefei is, but it's the capital of Anhui province. So I was there with a friend, and we get in this taxi. We're trying to go to this mall because they've got a Papa John's. We're going to sit down and eat some good food, Western food. Anyway, we're going along, and all of a sudden the taxi is pulling off the road, and it's like, okay, what's going on? And then he's pointing at the temperature gauge, and he's like, oh, the car is overheating. So he opens up the hood, and I get out because I'm curious to see what's going on. And I look under there, and oh man, the state of things under the hood was not so good. The coolant was it was the color of rust, and I don't think it was Dex Cool or anything like that. It was just, here's what I picture happening. They, rather than putting coolant in the car, they just took the city water, which is full of who knows what. It's obviously not distilled water, something clean, and just dumped it in the engine, and of course, it's going to rust out. Just what a mess. Anyway, we had to get a different taxi, but I remember thinking to myself, wow, never buy a used car in China, because it's going to be something like that, rust, or who knows what the oil is. I could see somebody being like, they don't necessarily know about mechanics or cars. Oh, we'll put whatever oil in there, whatever's the cheapest. Not knowing about, weight and all of that stuff, but yeah, used cars in China, probably not a good idea. I really think for a while, online shopping is going to be the big thing. Everybody's going to be shopping online. Nobody wants to really spend time in the supermarket. They're not crazy like me, going in and looking at all the stuff. Here we go with the coffee water run. You can see I got it. And I see we've gotten a few more chips in, but it's still cucumber flavor. They have tomato flavor, which basically tastes like ketchup flavor. Now, I do want to say in Europe they have a ketchup flavor potato chip that's actually good. These ones, they're not so good. So I've already had those. I don't really want to upset my stomach by eating them again. So I'm probably going to pass on that. Speaking of taxis, that's not my craziest experience with a taxi in China. A long time ago, well, I guess it wasn't that long. Let's see, 2015. It's been a number of years. I was in Beijing. Sorry, there's some dog trying to attack the wheels of my car. Where did he go? Well, hopefully he's okay. No, he's still chasing the car. Let's speed up and get away from this dumb dog. Anyway, the taxi. My friend and I decided that we were going to go visit the Great Wall. This was a while back. I was living in Beijing, and we took this bus. It took us 2 hours to get out from the city to the countryside, where we then decided to, well, it was some place that he picked that was supposed to be, you know, untouched or unrestored. So we get there, and you can see the wall. It's way up on the top of this mountain. So we, in the middle of the winter, by the way, it was super, super cold. So we climb up this mountain, and we get up there, and it's amazing, and there's nobody there. It's freezing cold. We take some pictures, and then we look, and there's a ski lift thing. We could have ridden the ski lift up to the top. We didn't have to climb the mountain. But by the time we realized that, it was already closed. So we ended up having to climb back down. And of course, by the time we finally got down, we discovered that the bus is no longer running. So we were in a situation where we had to figure out how to get back into Beijing, which was a long way from there. So we decided, okay, we need a taxi. So we're going along looking for a taxi, and all of a sudden this lady pulls up on a scooter, and she's like, in English, you know, "You need a taxi?" I'm like, yeah, we do. She says, "Wait a minute." And next thing you know, she pulls off, and this car with another lady comes in. "Okay, you know, get in." And we're like, and before I get into this story, I want to say, don't be scared to take taxis and stuff in China. This is very unusual what happened to me. So we get into this taxi, or what we think is a taxi, and she just starts driving around, you know, and goes down some alleyway, and then behind some buildings, and pulls into this little space. And we look, and there's these like thug-looking guys talking to each other. And she stops and turns off the car, and then she gets out and goes to talk to these guys. And our immediate thought is like, oh man, you know, we're about to get mugged or something. This was the stupidest thing we could have possibly done, just getting into some random person's car. And she talks to the guys. We see them look back at us, you know. The one guy shakes his head and says something, and then they just go back to talking. The lady comes back to us, and she says, "Oh, yeah, we can't do it. You have to find a different taxi." So we're like, okay, you know, we get out, and we got out of there pretty quick. Went back out to the main road. Would have been a bad situation. My friend had his expensive drone in his bag. You know, we had all this camera equipment. It would have been really awful if they had decided to rob us. I don't know what they were doing, but luckily nothing happened, and we just ended up leaving. We found another taxi, and it ended up costing us like, it wasn't, I guess if you consider how far we went, about $50 to get back to the city, where we could get on back to our, where we were living. But yeah, what a thing. I tell you, if you're in a foreign country, don't just get into random cars, you know, after somebody stops on a scooter and tells you, you know, that they have a taxi. Probably not a good idea. It worked out okay for us. Because, but yeah, don't be an idiot like me. That's the lesson of that story. Now, as for news about the virus, I do want to get onto some of that. It sounds like, for the most part in China, outside of Hubei province and Wuhan, there aren't really a lot of new cases being reported. And I'm starting to feel like that's probably true, for the most part. Because if it wasn't true, then, and there were like people getting sick and dying all over the place, believe me, it would be spreading. Despite the government's best efforts, it would be spreading from family to family on WeChat and other social media apps. So I think for the most part that's probably true. Now Beijing, of course, is being cautious, and they've closed themselves off, but I think a lot of people are doing that. The United States government has canceled meetings and different things with groups of people, so everybody's being cautious. Everybody's taking the virus very seriously. I do want to say also that I heard that Hubei province which is, sort of the epicenter of where the disaster has happened, they're declaring some of their areas as low risk now. So at some point soon, I imagine that some of these people from Hubei province are going to be allowed to leave and get on the road. But what I picture happening, because of the stigma that's now attached to Hubei province, everywhere they go, as soon as people see their license plate on their car and says Hubei province, they're going to be, I just imagine a lot of trouble for them. People are going to be saying, oh, no. You're not coming into my shop. Oh, no, not into our neighborhood. You'll have people coming out and blocking the roads, forcing them to leave. I just imagine a lot of trouble. If they're on the freeway, I just imagine them pulling into a rest area and everybody, backing away and running away in horror because here's the Hubei, boogeyman is coming to get them, and that's what I picture happening. It'll probably be that way for a while. Everybody's still afraid of the virus. Even if things are kind of going back to normal for the most part, people are terrified of anything to do with Hubei province. As far as some of the comments we're talking about, groups of crows, or not crows, but whatever the equivalent is here of that type of a bird flying around in Wuhan, and certain types of CO2. I don't know how they would be measuring that. I guess it's possible that NASA could have a satellite up there that's able to tell what gases are present. I don't know, but I haven't heard any reports of that, and I don't know how they would get it unless the Chinese government gave them that information. I'm sure that you're aware the Chinese government is very sensitive. Sorry, I'm going over that tank path again. The Chinese government is very sensitive about satellites taking pictures over the country, so I don't think that that's happening. If it was like a spy satellite doing it, I don't think that whatever government was responsible for measuring it they probably wouldn't release that information either. Not publicly. So, I don't know. I can't verify. I can't say whether it's true or not true, so I don't know. Another thing that I can talk about is people are afraid to go traveling. So one of the things that's happening is if you go to Beijing, for example, they're going to put you into quarantine for 14 days upon arrival. And you might be thinking, well, that's not so bad, if I get put up in a nice hotel for 14 days. And sure, I'm sure it would be nice to stay in a nice hotel for 14 days on the government's dime. Except there's just one problem. It won't be on the government's dime. It's going to be on yours. You either get to prepay or you're going to pay when you leave, when you get the bill, out of your own pocket. So there are some people that got stuck in a hotel and, they're paying about $100 a night for 14 days to stay in a hotel and under quarantine because they went to Beijing. So, that's $1,400 unexpected cost for a trip to Beijing. So a lot of people are avoiding it. Also, test kits to get tested for the virus. When you're traveling around abroad and different things, it's not free. It's not, complimentary. It's going to cost you. And some of these places where they've got these test kits, it's costing, over $1,000 is my understanding. So, yeah, a lot of people, even in China, they're avoiding travel at the moment because, well, there could be some unexpected costs. I'd also be curious to know, having come from the United States where a lot of people attend religious services on Sundays and other days, of course, I wonder if attendance is down due to the coronavirus. After hearing about the whatever that church was in South Korea where, 600 people got exposed, or it was 1,000 people at the church, and the pastor was walking around, touching people and doing things. He had the coronavirus. A bunch of them got it. I wonder if church attendance is down, especially in these places where, you're hearing about cases showing up. I can't imagine anybody that's really excited to reach into that donation plate or drop money or, get blessed by anybody. So I'd be curious to see if church attendance is down these days. By the way, those strawberries we picked, those were so delicious. I only wish they weren't so expensive. I think it was like $15 for a little basket of strawberries. I don't know if how that compares to costs in the United States these days. It's been a while, obviously, since I've been there to buy strawberries, but it seems like you could get a little basket of. I have no idea. I can't remember how much they were. But yeah, kind of expensive, especially considering I had to go pick them myself. But I do like that I was able to pick, the best ones. Usually in the United States, I don't know. Somebody mentioned it's because of their GMO. But yeah, in the United States, for whatever reason, the strawberries have almost no flavor. It's just sour. That's about the only flavor you get out of them. But man, these ones, they're sweet. They're, of course, still a little tart, but much sweeter than the strawberries I've had in the United States. Now, I do have to say, I had some strawberries in Oregon one time when I was doing a little road trip that tasted about the same as these. Delicious. But yeah, they taste quite good. And I was able to pick the best ones, so I just wish they weren't so expensive. But I guess if you see some of my videos and decide you want to come and visit Fengyang County or something, then that can be another little activity you can do. You can go and get yourself pick some strawberries in the field along the way between different places. Lots of fun, except for the mud. You might want to, don't wear shoes like mine if you're gonna go pick strawberries. It's not fun to have to clean the mud off. Okay, so I was going to go to Mingguan, but I have changed my mind because, well, I don't know. I would be putting a lot of other people at risk if I'm going to be going to places like that. Who knows what sort of virus thing is going around, so for everybody else's sake, I'm just not going to go there. Like I said, I think it's not a good idea. I'll wait a while. Then I'll go show you guys Mingguan. Well, I'm headed back to the house, so maybe we can do a walk around in the farmland again, like old times, and talk about whatever else happens to be in the news. I'm thinking next week I'll take a trip over to Mingguan. Maybe I'll get my wife and convince her to come along, and we can go see how things are over there. It's I'm pretty sure that Mingguan is basically unknown outside of China, so it'd be kind of interesting to show you guys. It's got some things that are very untouched, I would say. A lot of old architecture and that sort of thing has been destroyed during like the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward and all of that. But Mingguan is still a place where you can go see some of it. So that'll be kind of fun to go have a look when things are a little bit better. And like I said, I'll convince my wife to come along. We'll go have a look. She can explain some of it better than I can. But that should be fun. Oh man, so I was going to finish this video out here, but unfortunately it's raining, so I might either, well, we'll see. I might get back in the car. We'll see. Gloomy days. Lots of rain. So I'm stuck in this car. Which, as I mentioned before, it's not a bad car. I guess I didn't really talk about how well it's done for me over the last couple of years. I haven't had any mechanical problems, which is something I was worried about, that, this being a Chinese car, that something would break, maybe the buttons would stop working, or that sort of thing. But no, it's held up just fine. I haven't had any, like I said, any mechanical problems. I got a flat tire once, but that wasn't because the car was bad. It was just because, well, I stupidly drove through a bunch of junk and ended up with a flat tire. And it wasn't flat, it was just, one of those slow leaks. Ended up having to get the tires replaced, but yeah, that was my fault. The tire sensors continue to function properly. Everything works right. Radio works fine. I wish it had a better radio. I would say that. If you're ever in China deciding to buy a car, the car is good, but I have to be fair. Chinese cars, I haven't, even with foreign brands like Ford or any of those. For whatever reason, the radios, they really lack in bass. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of bass. There's not a whole lot of anything. They're yeah, you know. I mean, you can see, well, you can't. I mean, you can see the radio, you can't really hear it. I don't know how it would come out in the video, but here you can see it's got like this little touchscreen thing. Now that it's on, you can actually see it. I've had to figure out how to navigate that thing because, well, it's in Chinese. Yeah, no transmission problems, no engine problems. Keep the oil regularly changed, and, well, I guess, yeah, a car at this age shouldn't be having any problems, but it literally has had no problems. And I was worried about that somehow, you know, it might break or something. We were originally, when we first decided to buy a car out here, we decided we wanted to get a Ford, but it got sold out from under us, so we didn't end up getting that. And my wife saw this one, decided she liked it, so we got it. And I'm glad we did, because it's turned out really well. And I've seen a lot of those Fords, and they don't hold up well. And it doesn't really come with a lot of creature comforts, I guess you could say. Pretty plain. The Audi, I think, would be a lot of fun. I haven't given up on buying that yet, but it's, you know, when you really think about it, to get a car and then to have it, you know, be worthless after 10 years, it's hard to justify buying an Audi, but it would still be fun. I'd love to have a fun car to drive around. I'm known for my impractical vehicle purchases. This is the most practical that I've ever gone with a vehicle. So, yeah. I mean, back in America, I always used to joke about, you know, Miatas. I'm sure that everybody, well, not everybody. It's a little two-seater Miata, or Mazda sports car thing. I used to joke around about them. And one day I saw one at a car dealership, and I thought, let me give this a see what this is like. So I got in the thing and test drove it. And, you know, at first I just wanted to see if I'd fit in the thing because they're so small. But I got it. It was a lot of fun to drive. I ended up buying it. It was a lot of fun. It got smashed by another car, though, unfortunately. But yeah, not a very practical vehicle purchase. It wasn't expensive or anything, but it was a lot of fun. Just don't buy groceries with that car. Have to have a family and transport them in that car. Yeah, those are the kind of decisions I usually make about cars. This one's turned out quite well, though. Here you can see the town is really starting to come back to normal. Everybody's coming back out. It's still not as busy as it would normally be. Let's see if they've got anything set up here on the street where they normally have the outdoor market. We're about to drive past it now. And, nope. Nothing yet. Yeah, we've got people crossing every direction, picking up packages. I'm already back. The video's getting long, so I'm going to cut it here, get it all put together, get it uploaded, and we'll see you in the next one.